All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Depends on which part of the world you're in, but we represent internationally here on the Fantasy NBA Waiver Wire Show. I am Ethan. He is Adam. Adam, we got to get right into it because earlier this week, I tagged you on Twitter and I said the sea was parting. The waiver wire was parting for Moses Brown. Moses Brown, once again, is a hold very clearly. We got to get through this trade deadline, but he's back on the floor today. No Al Horford for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Moses Brown in the starting lineup, 13 points, 14 rebounds right now. Is there a scenario, even on a night where he does not produce, where you are dropping Moses Brown?
Not at the moment. I think from what we've heard, it doesn't sound like Horford's going to be traded, but it's pretty clear. I mean, he's rested almost every second game at this point. So
even when it's not a back-to-back, I feel like it's just every other for him.
That's right. And look, Brown, I mean, he wasn't good in his last game, but he still played 22 minutes or something, 23 minutes. So it was just an off game. So if he's getting more than 20 minutes, he probably should be rostered everywhere.
Gotta love. I mean, I think that's an easy call. I think Moses Brown is an easy hold for me right now, and I don't see the upside in dropping him, shall we say? But I definitely see the downside. And the same thing can be said for Isaiah Roby, 17-7 with a block today. I feel like he's starting to really come on, Adam.
Yeah, I added him in 2 leagues last night, actually. So pretty happy looking at his stats. He had a steal early on, and they took it off him. I was a bit disappointed with that. But yeah, no, look, his minutes have been really good, and even with Brown coming in, I think people were a bit concerned that he was going to lose some touches and some time, but they can play different positions, so I think it's fine. I'd have Roby in pretty much every league as well.
Actually, on the one team where I have both of them. On the one team where I have either, I have both, and I have no qualms about it. I feel like both should be pretty locked into that role the rest of the way, regardless of what happens with the Thunder. I'm a little more concerned on the other side of the basketball, though, Adam, at least in this game from the Rockets' perspective. I know Kevin Porter Jr. was everybody's favorite waiver wire pickup this time last week. Wasn't supposed to play in this one. Surprise, he did play. He's only seen 20 minutes of action, and this is with both John Wall and Victor Oladipo in the lineup. 4 points, 5 assists. Not exactly, non-usable, but very close to it. And Kenyon Martin Jr., 0 points, 1 rebound, and not a whole lot else in 14 minutes in this game. Where are you at with either Kevin Porter Jr. and KJ Martin Jr.?
Well, I mean, you have to hold. If you've been holding now, you have to hold until Thursday and see what happens. See if Oladipo, I mean, there's still word that he might be traded. I don't know if that happens.
Right.
John Wall feels like he's sort of edging towards not playing for another week or two for some reason. So, yeah, look, I mean, not a great game for Kevin Porter, but he was actually ruled out yesterday and then upgraded and played. So he's not 100% clearly. So he'll be better than this. This is not surprising. I mean, it's not like he's a veteran who's proven or anything like that. Right. So when they're healthy, which they are tonight or today, whatever it is over there, he's going to have good games. He's going to have bad games, but I'm still holding him.
Yeah, I mean, I think you make a great point with the trade deadline upcoming, and you just don't know what the Rockets are going to do. Plus, we got the news that John Wall's knee has to eventually be scoped. When that eventually arrives is kind of somebody's guess right now. Could be next week, could be after the season, but obviously he is not 100%, as has unfortunately been somewhat of the theme in his career. But how about Daniel House Jr. with 18-7 today and a steal? I know that's going to get the attention of many, especially he's got 3 threes. Coming off his previous game where he played 34.5 minutes with 10 points, 4 rebounds, a couple threes in that one. He's now scored double digits in 3 straight games. His playing time looks like it's trending up. If he's a free agent in your league, are you going out and taking a chance on Daniel House Jr.?
Oh, look, sure, he's worth a flyer. We've seen him be a standard league guy before. Mm-hmm. But I mean, you have to this is good. So looking at his box score here, but he's not going to shoot 7 of 8 every night. So if he shoots 3 of 8 or 4 of 8, he's more like sort of 11 points with 7 rebounds, which is, I mean, that's okay, but it's not. I wouldn't be prioritizing him, but if you've got a free roster spot and you're looking to stream in, then sure, give him a look.
And I think that's the reality, right? Is like for me, you're kind of have to kind of take a wait and see approach with this Rockets team with those fringe guys. On any given night, they could be prolific. In other nights, they could be absolutely abhorrent. And until we get through the trade deadline, we just don't know how this is going to shake out. I think that the time for Sterling Brown may have come and gone if that's a guy that you were relying on. But the Rockets are just sort of one of those weird teams right now, like we can say for so many others. But when it comes to those guys, I think if you've taken a chance on a guy like KJ Martin Jr. and especially Kevin Porter Jr., keep him in the mix, right? That's an easy one for us. Jed gives us our first question, Adam, and it kind of fits the theme of what we're talking about, so let's go with it. How are we feeling on holding Horford in 12-team head-to-head leagues? Resting has been frustrating. I got a different word for it, Jed, but we'll go with frustrating. And looking to stream that spot or grab a hot guy off the wire. Adam, I know if anyone who drafted Horford did not draft him to be this version, at this point in the season, are you ready to cut him loose?
Oh, that's a tough call to make. I mean, he's still going to be a top 70 sort of player when he's on the court, so it's hard to cut a player that's got that much upside per game. But as we touched on, he seems to be resting every second game. So, I mean, you could. I mean, I think when all is said and done, if you stream that spot, you probably get more value. Just given that I mean, what have they got left? Maybe 30 games, something like that. I think we're at about 40 games for most teams, so around 30 left. So he probably only plays sort of 20 of those at the most.
Yeah.
So you could do it. I mean, it's a tough call. You could consider trying to trade him if you could get a top 80 guy back. But I don't know whether anyone is on the lookout for a veteran who's going to play 2/3 of the games the rest of the way.
I feel like I might want to, if I'm a Horford guy, I might want to take him and pair him with somebody who's, got some juice that maybe I picked up off the waiver wire not too long ago. Maybe try one of those 2-for-1 deals and sort of marginally upgrade around the edges. I would at least try that before you outright cut him. I mean, it's kind of like, and this is how I'm going to segue into this. It's kind of like the Lakers letting Damian Jones go after his second 10-day deal so they can evaluate the trade market, evaluate the buyout market, and then maybe come back to him. And if that's not a segue into the Lakers, Adam, I don't know what is, because I had to bring it up early. Yesterday, LeBron gets sort of rolled into by Solomon Hill. The ankle bends the wrong way. Of course, he gets back up, hits a three, but then coming back down the court, he quickly motioned to that bench and said, hey, I need to come out of this game. For LeBron, who's a guy who plays through almost anything when it's not serious and even things that are, I think that was telling. It wasn't a surprise that he got ruled out shortly thereafter. And it wasn't a surprise to see the Lakers lose, because when you lose LeBron James, you're already down Anthony Davis. Psychologically, that's hard, even though the Hawks didn't exactly light it up yesterday. Adam, you look at this Lakers team now, and if Kyle Kuzma's available in your league, I think he's a must-grab player. But how about guys like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope or Markieff Morris or some of those, fringe contributors?
Yeah, look, I was watching the game, and it was. I mean, we see guys go down with injuries all the time. To see LeBron on the floor rolling around like that, he's pretty confronting, because you have never seen that in his career. And so that. I mean, he got up and as you said, he hit that three, but it was fairly obvious that he was in a lot of pain. He doesn't show it. So. Yeah, in terms of an absence, I think I wrote about this. I happened to be on shift when it happened, and it made my shift very busy because I had to write basically every update that we got.
You mean people were looking for news about LeBron James? I'm shocked.
Yeah, it was shocking. Yeah. In terms of the length, I don't think, unless something came out while I was asleep last night, we don't have any word on the severity of the injury yet. And so the absence could be anywhere from 2 to sort of up to 6 weeks if it's a relatively severe sprain. So yeah, as you said,
we got a high ankle sprain. That's what we're calling it now.
Yeah.
So and that's and like you said, depending on sort of the grade of that, right? Could be 2 games, could be 2 weeks, could be a month. I don't think the Lakers are going to rush him back because obviously they're fighting, just to basically make the playoffs, and they're not concerned about home court advantage. But that said, Adam, those standings are tight, so they're going to have to get some level of production from those guys they have available. We know AD is going to continue to miss some additional time here moving forward. The Lakers currently, as of going into tonight's game, they are tied for the second seed out west, but it gets really crowded really quickly, and some of those teams on their heels aren't exactly taking their foot off the gas pedal, and even those outside the playoff picture are going to come gunning hard. So, Adam, is Kyle Kuzma the only guy who becomes fantasy relevant here? We know Dennis Schroeder is going to have an expanded role. Marc Gasol is still out of the lineup. I think Montrezl Harrell, obviously, who's been playing well, his role moves up a little bit. But I look at a guy like Markieff Morris, who has been usable off the waiver wire over the last week or so, a couple of threes, 10 to 12 points, handful of rebounds. Do we think Markieff Morris is a guy who people should be going out to pick up right now, trying to be proactive with this?
Well, you look. I think you take a flyer on anyone there because we don't know who's going to step up. I think Taylor Horton Tucker, who we've probably talked about 6 or 7 times on this show, he'd be the guy that I'd be most interested in.
Yeah.
Just for the upside, I think we don't know what he can do in big minutes. It would make sense to probably start him. I don't know whether they will do that, but if I had to pick one, he would be the guy I would be targeting first. Kuzma obviously as well, but he's probably rostered in most leagues at this point. And same with Montrezl Harrell. I think he's probably rostered in most leagues as well. He's going to do a lot more on the offensive end. As we saw last night, he had 25 and 11 or 23 and 11 or something.
23 and 11 for Big Trez.
Yeah, so he's gonna sort of get his on the offensive end. So they'd be probably the 3 main guys, and then Morris, maybe Caruso gets a little bump with some more ball handling. Schroeder, obviously, he's probably rostered as well. So there are quite a few guys here who could have value, but could also just hurt you in a few places.
And that's going to be the challenge, right? Because you're right in that they're going to have to spread it around. They don't have that sort of clear-cut next man off the bench. I mean, that's sort of the blessing and the curse with improved depth. I do think the guys that you mentioned, right, like Markieff Morris played 28 minutes last night, 12 and 6 for him. Is it sexy? No. Is it usable? Yes, especially if he's hitting threes. Something to keep in mind, Damian Jones, like we just said, will not be with this team, at least for the time being. So that will open up a few more minutes inside for as long as Marc Gasol remains on the sidelines. So that should benefit Trez. I do like Taylor Horton Tucker call. I think he should be playing a little bit more. 21 minutes last night, 9, 5, and 4. He starts playing 25, 28 minutes, especially if he's scoring in double digits and getting 5+ assists. I think there's a lot to like there. He does carry that defensive upside. KCP has been MIA since the beginning of the season, more or less, unfortunately. So I don't think a whole lot changes with his ceiling there. I am curious to see if Wes Matthews can get a little bit of something going here. He hit a few quick threes in last night's game and then sort of stayed silent thereafter. Maybe he's a bargain bin specialist if you're really desperate for threes in a deeper league. But Kuzma, Trez, THT, those are the guys for me. Markieff Morris would be the next man up after that, and just kind of we'll see afterwards. But tough spot for the Lakers to be in, no doubt. And we move on because we don't want to spend too much time talking about the sadness of the Lakers right now. Would you pick up Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and would you drop Kelly Olynyk for him in an 8-cat rotisserie league? Good question from RS.
I think you could consider it. I dropped Olynyk last night and picked up Justin Holiday, which was a good move today. We know what Olynyk does. He plays really well for a week or two, and then he disappears for a week or two, and then he'll probably come back again. So, look, I mean, he's fine to have on a 12-team league, but not a must-roster guy. And I'm looking at the box score here. Lonzo is out today. He didn't play. We're still hearing him sort of, again, thrown up in trade talks. And Alexander Walker has been pretty good today again. So, look, I think that's fine. I'd be happy with making that move.
Yeah, I think that's a fine drop. I wouldn't get too attached to Nickeil Alexander-Walker, especially if Lonzo's absence is just a game. I'm still sort of skeptical that Lonzo gets traded, especially to the Clippers, as has been mentioned, because the Clippers simply don't have the picks. They don't have the treasure chest that New Orleans would be looking for. So I think for the time being, Nickeil Alexander-Walker is a fine pickup if you're just looking to stream him and see what happens, especially for Olynyk. I'm right there with you. All right, Jed's back with another question. Thank you, sir. What is your outlook on Beasley coming back with Anthony Edwards taking more shots as of late, looking to maybe use waiver wire priority on him in a 16-teamer? Yeah, I mean, if Beasley's available, I say go pick him up. Look, the Wolves need all the offense they can get. So the Anthony Edwards improvement has been great. It's been real, and he deserves the credit. But it's not like Malik Beasley is coming back to a role where he's playing 15 minutes a night. Adam, this is an easy one for me.
Yeah, especially in a 16-teamer.
Yeah.
I think he'll still be a top 100, top 90 player. And so, yeah, in a 16-team league, what's that? Potentially 190 players, 180 players deep. If you can get a top 80 player, then you need to get him.
All day long on that one, so that's an easy one. Good day, Jake. Oh, look at me. I feel like I'm living down under, just like you, Adam. Looking to make a 2-for-1 deal to get Mitch Robb back in the lineup. Who's a good target for a Shai DeJounte combo? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Sorry, I can't read. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, DeJounte Murray combo. Who's a good target? Are we looking to trade both? Am I understanding this question correctly?
Yeah, I think he wants to get activate Mitch Robb probably off his IR.
Okay.
And to do that, he needs to drop someone, but rather than do that, he wants to trade away 2-for-1. So looking to get, looking at who you could get back. I'm assuming if you're trading away Shai and DeJounte, you'd be looking to get a guard. So you'd probably want. I mean, Shai's probably going to be a top 40 player the rest of the way. DeJounte probably a little bit lower, but you'd probably be looking at I don't know whether you could get Chris Paul. I
was thinking like a Chris Paul, Devin Booker, that sort of category of player if you're trading away both of those guys.
Yeah. I mean, if you could get Fred VanVleet potentially. Yeah, but you'd be looking for a fairly elite guard. I don't think you're going to get sort of one of those first-round guys. Like, you're not going to get a Lillard or Steph Curry or someone like that back. But if you can get someone in that next tier, I think that'd probably be worth considering.
I agree with that. That's an easy one, I think. But, if you're going to trade away both of those guys, you got to be really confident about your guards because those are two very, very quality guards right there, especially for San Antonio. Keep in mind, they're going to be young the rest of the way, basically. So I feel like Murray's only going to get further license to sort of make his mark on that team. They did give him a big fat deal despite Derek White's presence as well. Is Noel a drop? Nerlens Noel, 16-team, 9-cat head-to-head league. Possible replacements are Roby, Claxton, and Kleber. I mean, I would drop him for Roby or Claxton a week ago.
Look, Roby, yes. Claxton, potentially. Blake's back tonight, so...
I know. I am concerned about that because Claxton is their best big man on the roster, DeAndre Jordan included.
Oh yeah, he is, but I don't see him playing ahead of Jordan anytime soon, which is a shame.
Unfortunately.
Kleber, yeah, look, I mean, Kleber's been pretty good. The last couple of games, his minutes have been up a bit, but Finney Smith was out. He's back tonight, so yeah, look, Roby would be probably the priority there. And I'm just having a look. The Rockets just lost again. What's that? 19 in a row.
Whew.
Yep. 19. Nice. So, yeah, look, probably Roby. Claxton and Kleber, I would just have a look at how they go tonight with both teams sort of getting those players back. And, yeah, I mean, Noel, I think is Mitch Robinson, I think he might be questionable tonight. Or do they play tonight? Or tomorrow or tonight? Yeah.
Game time call for Mitch Robinson.
Yeah. So, no, I mean, Noel's struggled even with Robinson out of the lineup. So, yeah, look, I think that'd be fine unless you really, really need the blocks. Then Noel's not a guy that I'm sort of prioritising there.
Even so, for me, I just feel like there are going to be better options available. And after Isaiah Roby finished with 18 and 8 today with the block, you're not going to have a lot of time to decide if you want to make that move. So I'd be very much in favor of dropping Noel for Roby right now as you continue to watch the show. We appreciate that question, Jed. Brandon asks a question about KPJ, who is the bottom guy on his roster. Next is Wiggins, Garland, and Robert Williams. It's got KD on the IL, and the deadline is Thursday. Who's a good target in a 2-for-1 for Ja Morant and Wiggins or Porzingis? So trading Ja and either Andrew Wiggins or Kristaps Porzingis for a roster improvement. Do you have a preference between Wiggins and Porzingis in terms of who would be your second man in that trade? We'll start there.
I mean, you'd be trying to hold on to Porzingis if you could, because he's probably a top 20 player. Ja Morant, I've actually had a few questions about Ja Morant this week, and he's one of those guys that isn't actually that good in fantasy. Even though he puts up some nice numbers, scoring and assists, he just hurts you in other areas. And so if you were to trade away Morant and Wiggins, you're probably not going to get anything substantial back, I wouldn't think. Neither of them are, I mean, I don't even know what their rankings are because I don't have either of them on my team. But Wiggins is sort of I would say a top 100 player, and Morant's outside that. I think he's sort of in the 130 range or something. So, yeah, look, I mean, but both of them do have a bit of name value, so you can cash in on that. So if you can find a manager who maybe doesn't dig into the stats as much as others, then you could look at trading them away. I'd probably be aiming at, I don't know, a top 60, top 70 sort of player. I think that's probably who you would get for them. But I mean, you've mentioned there that Kevin Porter Jr. is the bottom guy. You could consider dropping him if you can't get a good trade back, then I think Porter, I wouldn't be dropping him if you don't have to, but it is something to consider.
I wouldn't be dropping him if you don't have to either. I mean, if you're looking to trade Ja and Wiggins, maybe a guy like Malcolm Brogdon. Do you think somebody goes for that?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think, as I said, I think Morant does have that name value, and people think he's a lot better than he is in fantasy because he's good in a couple of areas, but he really hurts you in others. So, yeah, look, if you could get Brogdon back, then absolutely.
I think Brogdon could be a good target. It's sort of weird to ask this question, but I'm going to ask it. If somebody came to you and said, hey, I'll give you Montrezl Harrell for Ja Morant and Andrew Wiggins, would you consider that?
No.
Need a little bit more than that?
Yeah.
Okay. Need a little bit more than that. So we'll go with Brogdon for that one. And Brandon did add Wiggins, ideally, would be the second pair. So I think Malcolm Brogdon, something like that, would make a lot of sense for you, Brandon. So hopefully that helps. All right, RS, thanks for the thoughts. You're welcome. Third place, 12-team league. Can't finish first, but could get to second. Do I keep hanging on to JJJ, or do I start streaming that spot weekly league? Adam, I feel like JJJ is a weekly topic since we started this show way back when the season began. We have about the same information about his return that we do at the beginning of the year, which is nobody seems to know. I'm not anticipating JJJ coming back this season. I think if you're holding on to him, you're holding on to hope, not a whole lot else. If you can push for second, for me, I would make that drop and start streaming that spot, especially with games played being such an important category in this COVID season.
Yeah, I've sort of lost hope for JJJ. And I mean, it depends a little bit, I guess, on your league settings, because if the top two teams get a bye, which is potentially how your league is set up, then that's always a benefit in fantasy. So if getting into second means that you get the first week of the playoffs off, then I would be pushing to get into second. If it doesn't, then I don't know. If you're cruising along and you're sort of going to finish third, even if you hold on to him, maybe you give it another week. But even if he comes back, I mean, I think they're going to ramp him up fairly slowly. He's been on the sidelines. I mean, he's pretty active there. He doesn't look to be bothered by the knee at all, but it's very mysterious, given it was a it was just a meniscus tear, wasn't it? I think it's so long ago that it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And a meniscus tear is generally like 4 to 6 weeks.
And that's, it's so meniscus tears can go one of two ways, right? So you can just have the meniscus removed straight out, and you can be back in a couple of weeks. When you have it repaired, usually it's like 6 to 8 weeks in terms of being an NBA player, right? JJJ is going on what, 6 to 8 months now? I mean, this isn't even just like an exaggerated timetable. This is blown out the water. So even the most optimistic JJJ side of me sits here and says, okay, maybe he's back in 2 weeks with so much time off. It's not like he's going to go back out there and start playing 30 minutes a night from game one. So if it's going to take him 10 games to get ramped up and he's going to play 15, 18 minutes along the way, are you going to be encouraged, or are you going to be just even more frustrated now because you can't stash him on the IL and now you've dropped somebody potentially of value to use a player that you've waited on and he's not really all that usable when it comes to fantasy?
Yeah. Look, and I think he did just confirm further down there. So it's a Roto League.
Okay.
That makes a little bit of a difference, I suppose, because you can almost treat your bench spots like IR spots in a Roto League. So if you're sort of where you need to be with your games cap, if you do have a games cap, then if the only way you would probably be dropping him is if you're going to get someone better, or you've got a sort of a significant upgrade that you can make to your starting lineup in a Roto League. So that makes a little bit of a difference. But as you said, again, I don't think he's going to come back and win you a league if and when he comes back.
Yeah. I'm pessimistic, but that's just based on the update. So we'll see. I mean, if you want to keep holding him and you got no other really upside on the waiver wire, sure. But, I'm inclined to move on. That's where we're sort of at with that. Jed asks if you wanted to do a 2-for-1 deal for Jamal Murray, who should he pair with Mike Conley, Derek White, or Tyrese Halliburton? Other guards are DeJounte Murray and Colin Sexton. This is a 10-team, 9-cat head-to-head league. So we're looking to trade Mike Conley and either Derek White or Tyrese Halliburton for Jamal Murray.
I think you're giving up too much to get Jamal Murray, to be honest.
I was just going to say, I think I'd rather have Conley and either one of those two guys than Jamal Murray outright.
Yeah, I mean, Murray is another one of these guys who got a lot of bubble hype, and I don't know what his ranking is for the season. Would it be?
He's 36 in an 8-cat league, the big qualifier. He's 36th in an 8-cat league for the season.
Okay, so this is a 9-cat league though that this guy's in. So Murray, 36th, and I would think Conley is not too far behind him, 56. So there's not a massive difference there. Halliburton is probably even ranked higher than Halliburton's dropped a little bit. So look, if you're really after Jamal Murray, I would probably pair Derek White. If I had to pick one that I'd be more like Halliburton, I'd be holding on to Halliburton over White, I think. But yeah, I wouldn't be giving up Conley and either of those guys for Murray, I don't think.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I'm not the biggest Jamal Murray fan, but if you're determined, I'm inclined to agree with Adam in terms of the pairing. So hopefully we can help you with that. We got a next question is about Trae Young. What are our thoughts on Trae Young for the remainder of the season? Look to move him for a more consistent producer. Trae Young struggled against the Lakers in terms of shooting the basketball, but he did still finish with 14 points, 11 assists. He has been a little bit all over the place with his scoring, basically since the end of February, early March, right around that All-Star break. Just before and after the break, he was on a little bit of a scoring tear. He's cooled off since. It does look like the Hawks are making a more conscious effort under Nate McMillan to, I don't want to say spread the ball around, but to play maybe a little bit more team basketball instead of so much ISO Trae Young. They're 8-0 since Lloyd Pierce was fired, so something has to be going right. I'm just not sure if you float Trae Young out there in a deal, who are you getting in return who's going to sort of, fit your preferences, right? Because in this 8-cat league, I'm looking him up in now, he's 24th for the year. Now, I know he was a first round, maybe borderline second round pick in a lot of leagues. So if you're going to put Trae Young out there, who are you expecting to get in return, and will it be enough? Like if somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, I'll give you my Devin Booker for your Trae Young," are you taking it?
I wouldn't if it was me. Yeah, Trae Young's been pretty disappointing, but again, that's in sort of when you relate that to where he was being drafted, and he was being drafted too high. So a lot of people were taking him in the first round, and he's clearly not a first round player. Yeah, look, I wouldn't do it for Booker. I'm just looking at the rankings here.
You would have to give me like a Tatum, a Julius Randle, a Jaylen Brown, somebody in that sort of ilk for me to be satisfied with moving Trae Young.
Yeah, and it looks, I mean, Trae is still getting you a lot of assists. So that, I mean, if that's something you can compromise a little bit on, then that opens up your options. He hasn't hit a lot of threes. I know they were talking about that in the game the other night. So he's actually hasn't been great. But they're looking better as a team. I think I'd be waiting until after the trade deadline, because he and John Collins actually look to be playing really well together at the moment. And that's noticeable when you look at Collins' numbers and just they're winning, which helps, but their attitude on the court and they just look to be enjoying things a lot more.
Yes.
So yeah, if you could hold off until after Thursday, I probably would, and just to see if Collins is traded, because I think he actually helps when he's playing better. He helps Trae Young, and Capella has actually been in and out of the lineup a bit lately, so that's sort of Trae's role changes when Capella's on the floor. So yeah, look, I would just be holding if possible there.
Yeah, I think I'd be doing the same thing. I mean, that's you got to see how it shakes out after the trade deadline, because there's so much that can change in fantasy with when it comes to the trade deadline. I mean, depth charts change around, roles change around, especially if a big piece like John Collins were to be moved, that changes a lot. I don't think John Collins will be traded, but it's only a matter of days. So I think wait it out. We get added that I was thinking of making an offer at Tatum. I need more scoring punch in 9-cat 8-team league. Yeah, I would have no problem offering Trae Young for Jason Tatum. You have another manager who would do that. I think that's not necessarily an easy call, but a call to make for sure. Let's move away from some of those bigger names, Adam, and let's go back to the waiver wire, because it's not Michael Jordan, but it's Jordan Poole looking like Michael Jordan, at least over the last handful of games here for the Warriors. Do we think this is sustainable? I mean, this dude is averaging like 25 points a game over his last three, and he's made 12 threes. I mean, 4 threes a game, 25 points, not doing a whole lot else, but he's stealing the basketball a little bit. Man, 33% just over the last day added, 35% rostered in total on Yahoo leagues. Should that number be higher?
No, look, that seems, I think it's going to go up. Curry, we don't know when he'll be back. I mean, I don't think he misses a lot of time here. I think they're probably just giving him a little bit of a break as well. But I think even Steve Kerr came out yesterday and said that once Curry is back, they need to find minutes for Poole. So obviously with Curry out, he's a must roster. And I would say even once Curry comes back, I'd be holding on to him and just seeing what he can do, because he was scoring before Curry went down. So, yeah, look, I think his production can continue. So take a look at him.
We know he's always been able to score, just like we always know he's able to wear shorts above his knee. Those are two things you can definitely count on with Jordan Poole. But I think you're right, Adam. Just, if you've got him, hold him and see what happens. If he is somehow available in your league, I would pick him up, especially if you have somebody you've been looking to cut. Just know that, there is a ceiling that's a little bit lower than the floor. I have a question for you. DeAndre Hunter is on his way back, Adam. This is great news for me. Selfishly, because I've lost LeBron James, I've lost Eric Gordon. Kevin Love was an abomination of a pick, and the injuries have just gone on and on and on throughout the season. But this is good news for me, because I've kept DeAndre Hunter on my IL, sort of waiting for him to come back. Sounds like he'll be back, whether it's next game or the game after. How do you see that impacting the Hawks in terms of their current levels of production? Obviously, they've got Bogdanović back in the mix now. Danilo Gallinari has been playing well off the bench. Cam Reddish remains out, but he hasn't really been a factor at any point this season. I look at DeAndre Hunter. I mean, you're talking about a top 50 player before he went out who was playing heavy minutes. Obviously, Tony Snell goes back to sort of irrelevance here. I think it hurts probably Kevin Huerter. It obviously hurts Tony Snell. It might hurt John Collins a little bit because he may get a few less offensive opportunities. But do you think it impacts the production of guys like Gallo and Bogdanovich as well?
I think Bogdanovich is probably one of the main, like they just in terms of they play a similar role and a similar position. Hunter, I don't think will be as good as he was before he went down. I think a lot of things fell his way. The Hawks weren't playing well. Collins and Trey had that thing going on. I think the team is just in a better place, as we have touched on. So he'll come back in and he'll play a role, and they obviously like him and they're invested in him. But I don't think he'll be a top 50 player. I think he'll be more like a top 80 sort of guy, top 90. So, I wouldn't be dropping. I mean, Bogdanovich, he's not a guy that I'm sort of rostering anywhere anyway. He's been better the last couple of games, but not fantastic. I don't think him coming back is going to cause me to drop anyone yet. Gallinari will be an interesting one because he's been a lot better since Nate McMillan took over. Yeah. So it'll be, interesting to see if he loses some touches there, but I'm not making any big moves yet.
I hope that DeAndre Hunter can be closer to top 75 than he is the top 90. Maybe I can split the difference with you there, hopefully, because I certainly need his level of production. But if DeAndre Hunter is floating around on your waiver wire for whatever reason, make sure you absolutely change that as soon as possible, because he's a guy who will come back and he will come back to play. We talked about Saddiq Bey last week, Adam. We kind of sat here and said, I'm not sure why he'd be on any waiver wire. I think he hurt us because this week he's played pretty well. Killian Hayes will be on his way back, but probably at least not for about a month or so, maybe a cameo toward the end of the season. Doesn't look like DeLon Wright is really going to knock Saddiq Bey off track. The Pistons are playing for a whole lot of nothing. Is Saddiq Bey a must-roster guy in any format?
I think so, yeah, most formats. He's not going to fit everyone's team, but there's got to be someone in your league that could use him. And again, maybe he hurt us, and his last two games have been really good, so I wouldn't expect him to be that good. But he was pretty cool. He'd cooled off sort of before that, so he's obviously in the middle there somewhere. But the minutes are there; they're not going anywhere. So yeah, I think he's probably worth rostering everywhere.
I think the larger point that you made there is a good one, and I don't want it to sneak past anyone, which is just because a guy doesn't necessarily fit your construct doesn't mean you should just say, forget it, he's not for me on the waiver wire, because he can have value to that opposition, especially somebody who's sort of gunning for playoff position, who may be in a position to even overpay if that waiver wire pickup really fits the roster construct of their team. So I think that's a salient point and one I wanted to highlight, so I appreciate you bringing that up. Back to the questions. That's what we're here for, everybody. Which two of the three do I drop to get Halliburton and Van Vliet off of IL between Garland, McConnell, and Tate in a 12-team, 9-cat head-to-head league? Ooh, this is sort of the blessing and the curse of being a waiver wire monger in a 12-team league that has shallow depth, because then you got to make decisions that you don't want to, right? You're like, I found this diamond in the rough, and all of a sudden all my gems have boiled back to the surface. Adam, I'm going to let you take a stab at this one first, just because I like putting you on the spot.
Oh, man, that's hard. Tate would be the first one to go there for me.
Yes.
Probably McConnell. I just wouldn't be dropping Garland. I think his role is just set in Cleveland. He and Sexton have been playing really well the last week. So, I mean, if you have to pick two, it's Tate and McConnell. Yeah. McConnell's a tough drop for me just because I really love the way he plays. And but yeah.
He's a real scrappy Coco, I would call him.
He is, but, I mean, Halliburton and Van Vliet are better than all three of those. So, yeah.
Maybe even combined.
Yeah, well... Yeah, look, I think it's McConnell and Tate, unless you've got someone else on your roster there that you haven't mentioned that you could drop.
No,
Yeah.
I'm with Adam on that one. And it's funny because Wayne asked us right afterward, are we still holding McConnell? Generally, I would say yes. I mean, he's still playing minutes, he's still producing. He's giving you guard stats and out of position stats that you may not be able to find elsewhere on the waiver wire right now. So unless you need to move on from him because, I don't know, like, okay, let me pose it to you this way, Adam. DeAndre Hunter is available in my league, and I can drop TJ McConnell for him. Would you make that move? Oh boy, we got him thinking.
Yeah, it probably depends if what you're holding McConnell for. I mean, McConnell is only really going to help you in assists and steals. We know that.
Right.
So if you really need assists and steals, then I'm not sure I would, only because I don't think Hunter's going to really help you in assists, and he is going to be ramped up a little bit. So there's a lot of other factors there. I think Hunter is probably the better player. But yeah, McConnell, I mean, he closed the game tonight. He played in overtime for the Pacers. And they're at, other than TJ Warren, but we're not sure when he's coming back. But outside of him, they were at full strength. So
he's on the same timeline as Jaren Jackson Jr.
Yeah. So look, McConnell, and they just love his energy, and he's just got such a good rapport with all the players, and he's just really important to their offense. So I love McConnell, but so maybe I'm a little bit biased.
Let me ask you this fun question that has nothing to do with fantasy, but very much in reality. Who makes more money on their next contract, Adam? TJ McConnell or Alex Caruso? It's a good question, right?
Probably Caruso, but I don't know. I guess it depends whether they just sort of accept a contract with their current team or whether they shop themselves out there a bit. I think with McConnell, we know what he is. Like he's been doing exactly the same thing for however long he's been in the league. Caruso's a little bit more untapped because he hasn't really been put into a role where he can thrive and show off what he can do. So another team might be willing to say to Caruso, look, he's 10 million a year for 3 years to come and be our point guard. I don't see that. You
can be our Tomas Satoransky. That's the same deal he got from the Bulls when he went over there.
Yeah, something like that. So whereas I'm not sure anyone is going to offer McConnell a starting role.
McConnell's biggest challenge is he's almost always and forever going to be a mismatch defensively. That's his biggest challenge at the NBA level.
Yeah. So I would say probably Caruso has more potential there to earn more money.
The bald eagle is landing in a nest full of money. You heard Adam, all right? Is Tice a drop for Isaiah Roby? For me, this is an easy yes.
I think so. I'm just having a look at what Tice is doing tonight because they're playing at the moment. What's he got? 6 and 6. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, my answer was yes. I was just looking at what Tice was doing. But yes, I would probably take Roby over Tice.
I think there's just more upside there, so that makes sense. Appreciate that question, Wayne. Brandon lets us know the Rockets' losing streak is now officially at 20. Thank you, Brandon. That is one very sad locker room. It's hard not to feel for Steven Silas in his first year as head coach in Houston. Obviously, Daryl Morey knew what he was doing, and James Harden, I think he saw it coming for a long time. But that's what happens when you build a franchise around one player who's maybe not as committed to the process as he is to the result. So that's how it's going to go for the Rockets for a while. Adam, Rui Hachimura is a guy that we talked about recently, and as soon as we kind of poo-pooed on him, he said, oh, wait, my friends, there might be more. Rui Hachimura is a guy who I dropped just before he scored 51 points over 2-game stretch. He has been better. He has not exactly been lighting it up, but he has been better. Do you think this – I mean, like, what is Rui when it comes to fantasy, right? Because after that 2 games where he scored 51 with 18 rebounds, he's got a combined 29 points, 16 rebounds, 2 steals, no threes. So over the last 2 games, Hachimura is averaging about 14.5 points, 8 rebounds, and a steal. To me, that's seems about right, right? Like 12 to 15 points, 6 to 8 rebounds, and really not a whole lot else. And if you take away the name, I think that's the type of player who winds up on the waiver wire more often than not.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's
Like that's
as you said.
that's almost Markieff Morris.
Yeah, yeah. He has got that name value, but I think. Look, he has been better. I mean, you have to give him that.
For sure.
He has improved, and I think he reminds me a little bit, as you said, Morris. He reminds me a little bit of Kuzma. So just a points and rebounds kind of guy.
Yes.
But I think Kuzma's obviously getting playing time at the moment. But when both squads are healthy, I think the difference is that Hachimura is starting and getting good minutes, whereas Kuzma is playing 25 minutes off the bench. So,
although that's about to change in a major way right now for Kuzma.
It is, yeah, that's right, yeah. So that I'd have him as a back end 12-team player. But if you don't need scoring or rebounds, then you're better off just streaming his spot.
Yep, I am inclined to agree with you. Here's another McConnell or the other guy question. TJ McConnell or Dante DiVincenzo, rest of season, 9-cat head-to-head league. DiVincenzo's a guy who we've talked about it maybe a couple of times, but not because we don't like him, but just because he kind of is what he is for the most part. But I was looking at his recent production over the last handful of games here, in particular since the All-Star break. Adam, he's been excellent.
Yeah, I had him on I did make a quick list of players this morning, and he's on there. He was dropped in a few spots. I think people thought with Holiday coming back, it would impact his touches and his production, but he's actually ramped it up since Holiday sort of got back. And I think they traded away DJ Augustine as well. So they don't have a backup now, really. Like, I think it's DiVincenzo's minutes have gone up to over 30 a game. He's had a couple of double-doubles, I know, because the guy I'm against this week has him in his league, in his team, and it's a double-double league. So that's really annoyed me that he's got some double-doubles out of Dante DiVincenzo. But yeah, so he's not going to get 13 rebounds every game, but the steals will be there. He'll get some assists. The scoring's up a little bit. So, yeah, look, I think I would have DiVincenzo probably over McConnell there, just in terms of his ability to help you across the board a bit more.
Yeah, I think I'm on that side of the fence as well. So that's going to be the one scenario where we do not recommend McConnell, and we'll go with DiVincenzo. Is there anyone or any team or any player that you are sitting here looking at now that we're just a handful of days out from the trade deadline? It's officially sort of right in front of us. You say, I'm really watching this team, or I'm really watching this player to see how the trade deadline impacts that scenario. I know it's a bit of a loaded question because it's kind of like all of them, right? Like any team can make a trade. But let me put it like this. I look at a team, right, like the Knicks, okay? I don't expect the Knicks to trade for a point guard. But what if all of a sudden the Knicks are on the verge of acquiring Lonzo Ball, right? Could happen. We've seen weirder things happen, okay? So let's just play this out. The Knicks are on the verge of acquiring Lonzo Ball. Obviously, Lonzo's rostered no matter what, so he's going to remain rostered. But that impacts the outlook of guys like Emmanuel Quickley, Derrick Rose, Alec Burks, right? Alfred Payton when he's available and playing, all that sort of thing. So I look at the Knicks and as a team that's, I don't want to say overperforming, but overperforming in terms of where they were initially projected. I think of that. And the team right behind them, Charlotte, I think they could be looking for a taker for Devontae Graham. And I think Devontae Graham could be a lot more appealing on a different team now that LaMelo has sort of cemented himself alongside Terry Rozier, although I know Rozier is a little bit banged up right now too. So anything that kind of fits in that bucket for you?
No, look, I think the Rockets could be an interesting team if Oladipo does go. They could make any moves really because they're going nowhere. And one team that I'm watching and I'm not going to rant too much about them is the Grizzlies.
I was waiting. You've almost made it through the whole hour without really ranting. We saved these last few minutes just for this. So Adam, the stage is yours.
Oh, God. Oh yeah, I was very angry yesterday. I'll keep it quite polite and family friendly, but yeah, their rotations are just so weird. It's hard to know whether all these decisions are just coach driven or whether he's getting pressure from above that you have to be playing these guys. Because I mean, Melton's the obvious one, D'Anthony Melton. Why he isn't playing more minutes? And then yesterday he got 3 fouls in 4 minutes. So obviously in a normal situation, you're going to pull that player off because you need to save them for the second half. But they don't play him anyway. So why wouldn't you just leave him out there? And then he only played 6 minutes in the second half. And I mean, obviously in fantasy, we look at numbers and we look at production, and so we don't see all the behind the scenes stuff. So maybe there are reasons that they're not giving him court time, but they have paid him. I guess that's the thing here, is that they offered him that big contract and he took it.
Exactly.
But then they don't give him minutes. And just I mean, we get used to what teams are doing with their rotations, and the Grizzlies often don't leave their players on for longer than about 5 minutes. Like he'll change his lineup at sort of 4 or 5 minutes in, and then he'll bring players on, and then he'll pull them off and put the starters back on again. It's almost like he doesn't.
Almost like a hockey substitution pattern.
Yeah. And I just, having played basketball, not at that level, obviously, but
what are you talking about? Well, I'm not talking with former NBA hooper Adam King. I've been deceived.
I'm not that one. I'm the other one. Being on the court for 4 minutes, 5 minutes is not long enough to sort of build up any momentum unless you're a superstar player, and you just hit the floor running. But especially in today's NBA, there's so many stoppages. There's timeouts all the time. There's media timeouts. You need to be on the floor for sort of 8 minutes minimum, I think, to be able to actually get a feel for the game, for the pace, for the refereeing, and how the calls are being made. All of that. I don't know. I'm going on a rant, but
no, but you're right, because look, especially for guys who don't know where their playing time is going to come from, if they get out there for 5 minutes and they take a shot where they make the wrong decision or something, they're immediately sort of looking over their shoulder to see, when am I coming off the bench? So if you want your guys to develop that continuity, have the confidence that their game is going to speak larger than just one game sample size at a time, you do have to take that approach that you're talking about. And that's the confusing part of the Memphis plan to me, especially with D'Anthony Melton, is you paid this guy. He's all analytics, right? He fits what you're trying to do, and yet you keep trying to find ways to move away from him, whether it's Grayson Allen, Desmond Bane, Dylan Brooks, Kyle Anderson, and no disrespect to Kyle Anderson because he's having a great season, but all of these guys who could be giving at least 2, 3, 4 minutes to D'Anthony Melton. To me, it is an embarrassment that Melton is not a 25-minute-a-night player for the Grizzlies, especially when they're not at full strength.
Yeah, and look, if they were winning, like if they were playing these wacky rotations and they were winning and playing really well, you go, okay, well, you go with what's working. But I mean, they beat the whoever they beat yesterday, the Warriors, I think, who were without Curry. Draymond got injured. They didn't have a center because all their centers are out. So they beat them, but it was close. The night before, they got thrashed, I think. And so it's not working. Like, it's not like they're up there, they're the 4th seed and they need to keep doing what they're doing.
Like Justice Winslow played twice the amount of minutes than D'Anthony Melton.
He is so bad. I'm not even going to get started on Winslow. He looks terrible out there. Dylan Brooks just keeps shooting. Like I have him in a couple of my teams, but it's because I'm punting field goal percentage.
Yeah.
Because I think he was 4 of 16 one night. He's shooting 20, 30% often. I know he's crazy. Solid on the defensive end. Like he isn't a bad defender. So that's one reason that they do keep him there. But Grayson Allen Melton should be on over Grayson Allen every day of the week. So anyway, yeah, we digress. I digress.
It's okay. We got a few questions we can get to before we wrap it up. We'll go a little bit into bonus time here. Last player-specific question from Brandon: with the Morant and Wiggins 2 for 1 of mine, would the potential upside of Westbrook be worth it? Adam, are you trading John Morant and Andrew Wiggins for Russell Westbrook?
A month ago, no. Now, probably yes. Westbrook's actually been pretty good. I think he's healthy. Finally, his free throw percentage is a bit of an issue, but if you've got Morant, your free throw percentage is a bit of an issue anyway. So
exactly.
I would take Westbrook there.
I would as well. I'm going to let you answer this one outright. You dropping Brandon Clark for Nickeil Alexander-Walker ahead of the trade deadline, Adam? Are you there yet?
I have dropped Clark in a league, unbelievably.
Oh, wow. Breaking news, everybody.
Yeah.
All right. Adam is off Brandon Clark in a league. My goodness. I never thought
I'm not off him. Actually, I should have showed you. I ordered, I don't know if I mentioned earlier in the year, I ordered a Brandon Clark Grizzlies jersey from some weird store in Turkey.
Okay.
So it was a rip-off jersey, not a real one.
Yeah.
And I completely forgot about it. And I checked my bank account and I had a refund from them. And I thought, okay, well, it's not coming. I got a refund. But a week later it came. And it's really nice. Like the quality is fine for a rip-off. It was $30 or something.
Yeah.
But on the back it says Carter, not Clark.
Oh, so close.
Yeah, so close. So it had some of the same letters, but so the jersey. So for anyone who doesn't know the NBA, the jersey will look fine because they won't know that 15 should be Clark and not Carter. But
hey, you got sort of a retro vibe for you now, and you got it for free with the refund. So
that's right. Yeah,
there's always a good ending for that. All right.
Yeah.
So let's bring it back to the question: are you dropping Clark or AKA Carter for Nickeil Alexander-Walker?
I'm probably not. Although very different stat sets. Like if you need guard numbers, then yes. That's why I dropped Clark, because he was on a team. He just didn't fit my build, and so I dropped him. And I can't even think who I picked up. It might have been TJ McConnell actually, like a week and a half ago that I picked up. So yeah, look, if you need assists and threes and that sort of thing, then sure, I think that's fine.
Yep. All right. So you heard it there. He's okay with dropping Brandon Clark. All right. We'll get to the last one here. Rank these guys in 9-cat head-to-head leagues: Saddiq Bey, Kyle Anderson, Joe Ingles, and Melo. That is a unique group of players.
I think I'd have Bey first.
Mm-hmm. I think I'd go in the exact order it's listed, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I might switch Ingles and Anderson and just move Ingles ahead of Anderson. But
that's fair.
Look, I mean, they're all relatively close, and once you get into the sort of 80 and below, then it's
a matter of
easy.
Preference and how it fits your team, really, right? So you can't just go 1 through 25. You have to build through the construct as well. So looks like your polls are right. The middle could be flipped in between like an Oreo. Leave it to the construct, Jed. And last question from Jed we'll get to. With how well Bey is playing, is he a sell high for a top 100 guy, maybe looking at DeLon Wright? I would not be trading Saddiq Bey for DeLon Wright, especially with Killian Hayes looking like he's coming back this season. Adam, are you trading for DeLon Wright?
Probably not right. If it was right now, if you had to pick one, if they were both there, you had to pick one, you'd take Wright. But in a month, that could change, as you said, with Hayes coming back. So no, look, I think you're okay to hold on to Bey there.
I'm in agreement there.
Yeah.
All right, last one, bonus question from Tyler, just because we don't want to leave anyone hanging. Got offered Vucevic and DeRozan for Harris and Robert Williams. Is that crazy to think? Yes. Is it crazy to think that you would accept that trade? No, I don't think that's crazy at all. I would accept that trade.
Yeah, I think I would, unless like Williams is I mean, we've seen what he can do the last little bit, but his value is really tied into blocks.
I might trade. I would trade Tobias Harris and Robert Williams for Vucevic straight up, I think.
Yeah, Vooch, what's he been?
He's been amazing.
Player, I think.
I mean, he's the best center in NBA basketball that nobody knows is a superstar. Now, he's not exactly lighting up the Celtics, but the Magic are getting blown out tonight. For the season, you're talking about a player, Adam, who's averaging literally 25 and 12 with 4 assists per game, let's see. Is he averaging a 3 per game? No, he's averaging two and a half threes per game this year, almost 3 threes per game. He's shooting at 40% from behind the 3-point line, nearly 50% from the floor, over 80% from the line. He's averaging a steal a game. He doesn't block a whole lot of shots, but who cares what the rest of those numbers?
Yeah, no, he's been good, and I think, I mean, obviously with the Magic, it looks like they're going to fade out this season, and so people will start throwing up that narrative of Vucevic is going to be shut down, he's going to be rested. He's never been a player like that. I mean, if he wanted to be rested or shut down, then he would have done it previously. So yeah, look, I would be doing that. I think Robert Williams is a guy now that you probably can trade and get more than he's probably worth back. So yeah, and DeRozan has been fantastic as well for the Spurs. So
he has been. So I click that yes, like now, like right now, before that other general manager changes their mind. Yeah. Adam, we finally got through all the questions. We went a little bit longer than usual, but that's okay because we're here for the people, right? It is a beautiful day outside. Hopefully you don't get flooded out, not so much in Australia where there's a lot of rain right now. Here it's a beautiful day. Got the second dose of the COVID vaccine coming up this week, and we got spring break on the horizon. So I will be back with you guys next week with Adam with a fresh haircut and looking a whole lot better and a lot less stressed out. But in the interim, the basketball keeps me grounded. Adam, any final parting words for you, sir?
No, look, I'm going to try and stay dry. As I said, we're going through a one in a 100-year flood or something here at the moment. So hoping that everyone up north from me is safe. We're okay, but I'm going to go and get ready for work and head off to a nice warm office.
All right, Adam's going to build Noah's Ark so he can survive the flood. I'm going to record my next hit, which is the HoopBall Lakers show. You can follow us both on Twitter. He's at AdamKing91. I'm at Ethan_Norof. And until next week, we out. See you soon.